What is up, everybody? Welcome back. This is episode 3 of Fat Guy Sports Talk. As always, I'm Aaron, joined by...
I'm TJ.
This is Tyler.
Today, we are going to continue our draft coverage. We're going to be discussing NFC South today. We're going to start with the division champion. TJ, why don't you give us some more information about the New Orleans Saints?
So in the offseason, the New Orleans Saints, they lost a couple of people. Teddy Bridgewater, who's backing up Drew Brees, he went 7-0. And Ted Ginn Jr., not necessarily, a threat, but he's still, you have to respect him with his speed. They ended up just cutting a couple days ago Larry Warford, 3-time Pro Bowler guard. And they also lost A.J. Klein, Eli Apple, and Von Bell. Von Bell, I would say, is probably the most notable, even though you'll recognize Eli Apple as a first-round draft pick a few years ago. Didn't necessarily pan out as far as his ability. Von Bell has been a starter, since coming in. As far as additions, they did re-sign Drew Brees for $50 million over 2 years. Taysom Hill, they put an extension on Taysom Hill, brought in Malcolm Jenkins from the Eagles, phenomenal free safety in my opinion. Ty Montgomery, recognize him, a lot of our viewers, because we are Wisconsin-based. Former wide receiver, made running back due to the decimation of the Green Bay Packer running back committee that 1 year. David Onyemata.
He should have stayed wide receiver.
He should have.
Stayed wide receiver.
But he re-signed with the Saints. Andrews Pete agreed to sign with the Saints again, so he's back. Emmanuel Sanders goes from the 49ers. DJ Swearinger, safety, PJ Williams, cornerback, and Jameis Winston is probably the most noticeable signing. Signing a 1 year, $4.7 million with incentives contract to sit behind Drew Brees and play the Teddy Bridgewater role. As far as their draft, in the 24th pick of the first round, they drafted Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan. 10th pick in the third round, they drafted Zach Bond out of Wisconsin, linebacker. 41st pick in the third round, Adam Troutman, tight end out of Dayton. And then 26th pick in the 7th round, they drafted Tommy Stevens, quarterback out of Mississippi State. A little bit more about it. Why don't you take it, Aaron?
With the few picks that they had, I don't think they addressed issues that needed to be addressed. Obviously, Cesar Ruiz is going to fill a spot, especially after they lost Larry Warford. The Tommy Stevens pick confuses me, especially after they signed 3 quarterbacks, essentially, in Brees, Taysom Hill, and Jameis Winston. Why they would need to sign – go ahead.
Give a young person in the 7th round try at it, though.
You could easily pick one up as an undrafted free agent. It's a wasted pick in my mind. When you only had 4, why take a quarterback?
But it's the 26th in the 7th round. You got 6 more picks. I mean, it's pick
right,
now or
but
wait 6
how many
picks and pick 'em
7th round quarterbacks make a roster, whereas opposed to a 7th round defensive tackle or cornerback?
I don't think they're bringing him in to compete for the roster. I think they're bringing him in to work the practice squad. And then when Drew Brees retires, have him have a chance to come in and back up Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. I don't think they're really considering him as a roster spot this year.
It's just, to me, they could have went elsewhere with that and then probably picked up another as an undrafted free agent, I guess. Zach Bond, if you know me, you know I hate the Badgers, but I like the pick. Good linebacker. He's a great pass rusher. I'm rooting for him to make the team. I think he'll do great down there in New Orleans.
Yeah. What do you think, Tyler?
Honestly, I don't mind their draft because, I mean, they didn't have a lot they needed with the Ruiz pick in the first. I always like a solid lineman from the Big Ten, just because they're farm boys. It's the Big Ten. It's all they do.
You think of Big Ten, you think of running backs, offensive linemen. Outside of Ohio State, what do you think? Running backs, defensive line, linebackers, and offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
I say the other thing that's going for them that they did get is they did get the tight end out of Dayton there.
Adam Troutman.
I say they do need depth in tight end always.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Brees does like his tight ends.
Yep.
I mean,
and they're not necessarily brought in there to block either, which I think is all right. So yeah, Adam Troutman. I mean, Drew Brees does love his receiving tight ends.
And that's about it. I mean, outside of that, I mean, they did fill spots. I don't mind in the 7th round just because he was almost Mr. Irrelevant. In the
True.
26 picks of the 7th round, no one remembers Mr. Irrelevant besides the day of calling him, hey, that's Mr. Irrelevant. Outside of that, I mean, this is the same kind of thing. You hope for the best for the kid. He's going to get paid a little bit here for a while, but
Yeah.
that's about it.
I mean, ultimately, when you do get into the 7th round on these things too, you're going off your draft board. And if Tommy Stevens is the highest rated left on your draft board, you draft him, regardless of position, because you have him on your draft board for a reason. Cesar Ruiz, I didn't mention it when I said earlier, he is coming in as a center, but they are most likely going to move him to left guard to take that spot from Warford. I really like Cesar Ruiz. I think he's tough. I think he's violent. He's not very wide, which tends to be a problem with blockers. And I don't mean, fat wide. I mean, he doesn't have that width to the shoulder. And he's not very quick into hitting the defensive lineman. He's a little bit slow off the ball, but I think that's all, the technical stuff is very coachable by a very good offensive line group in New Orleans. I mean, they've had an outstanding line for years, so he'll be fine. I really like the Zach Bond pick. I think he's going to fill a really good need for them. Adam Troutman, I don't think you're going to hear his name too much. I think he's just going to be there for depth, and when he does get a shot, I don't necessarily see him shining. And Tommy Stevens, he's 26 pick, 7th round. Not a very good passer. He's more dual threat. Has gunslinger velocity though. Like, he throws a heater, just not very accurate in the pocket, and he's not very good at understanding and reading the field either. So I don't see him working out. Especially not New Orleans, which is a very read-based offense.
Yeah, but he's going to learn behind Drew Brees, so
It's
there may
always
be a
solid
shot at
for
some
least a
point.
year or two.
That's
Yeah.
true. So next, with the Atlanta Falcons, they did lose Devontae Freeman, former running back, Kenjon Barner, running back, Justin Hardy, wide receiver. Austin Hooper is a major loss at tight end. They lost Luke Stalker at tight end. Ty Sambrailo went to the Titans. Wes Schweitzer went to the Redskins. Adrian Claiborne to the Browns. Devondre Campbell to the Cardinals. Vic Beasley, a huge loss for them in my opinion, went to the Titans. Desmond Trufant to the Lions, another big notable cornerback on that team. And then Jonathan Cyprien is left the team as well. As far as pickups, I think they had a really good free agency. They went and got Dante Fowler Jr. to replace Vic Beasley, and I think Fowler Jr. is better. They brought in Tyler Davison on a 3-year deal. They brought in Todd Gurley on a 1-year, $6 million deal, which I think gives Todd Gurley another chance in the NFL and also vastly improves that running game, which defense just pinned their ears back and went after Matt Ryan last year. That is not a 2-14 roster. Okay, that is a playoff roster, and that pass rush was wicked without a running game last year as they rushed them hard. And then they brought in Charles Harris, defensive end, and Hayden Hurst to try and replace good old Austin Hooper. Hayden Hurst, he's decent. I don't think he's on the same level of Austin Hooper, but he hasn't played with a quarterback that can put him there.
Mm-hmm.
As far as drafts, in the first round, 16th overall, they picked A.J. Terrell out of Clemson. 15th pick in the second round, Marion Davidson out of Auburn as an edge rusher. Matt Hennessy, 14th pick, third round, center out of Temple. Linebacker Michael Walker, 13th pick, 4th round out of Fresno State. 28th pick, 4th round, safety Jalen Hawkins out of California. And 14th pick in the 7th round, Sterling Hofrichter, punter out of Syracuse. Tyler, what do you think?
We got a punter.
Not a punter.
Honestly, the free agency, I liked that Hayden Hurst isn't going to fill the Austin Hooper role. He's not Hooper talent. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to utilize more of their wide receivers now. They're going to change that offense a little bit. Bringing Todd Gurley is going to be a great, just even distraction. If he's not,
I mean, keep in mind with you throwing to your wide receivers, they still have first-round draft pick Calvin Ridley on that team at wide out of Julio Jones. So I think you're right.
Yeah, you have Julio Jones, you have Calvin Ridley, you now have Todd Gurley. I mean, and that's the big thing is Todd Gurley may not be the Todd Gurley of old, but it's still Todd Gurley.
Mm-hmm.
He's dangerous. He went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. I mean, didn't do much there, but he went there.
Nobody did much in that Super Bowl.
I think I worked. I think I did more. Not bad. Look at
Oh, that
it's like-
second half from them was rough.
That whole game was
looking at
rough.
looking at the draft, they tried to meet their needs with defense.
hmm
They went almost all defense, picking up Hennessy out of Temple there in the right there in the third is not bad. I definitely like
Agreed.
having that there. Terrell's gonna give them more options there for corner when they did with what they lost.
hmm I think Terrell can develop into a very, very solid number one option.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
He's
It's gonna
not the
take him a
best
couple
corner in
years.
this draft, but he's a really good learner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
and that's
I
the thing.
mentioned
He's
in
great
the
learning, he's
first
not the best
episode.
athletic, but I would say he's gonna take a couple years, but he'll get there for sure.
I mentioned in the first episode I liked him as an early choice for Defensive Rookie of the Year. He's an excellent press corner, and he's going into a press zone scheme over there in Atlanta, and he's all the tools there to succeed. So I look for good things.
He played really well zone in college
Yeah.
too.
hmm Yeah. Who takes a
I'll
punter
say,
though?
and then in later rounds, like he said, that's the thing. I mean,
who's the team that drafted Max Anger number 3? Was that the Jacksonville Jaguars? Max Anger, 3rd round.
Somebody, yeah, they
I'm
moved
just-
up. They moved
just
up.
They
saying-
moved up to
Yeah.
trade him.
Yeah.
I taking a punter. The Packers took a punter in the 5th round, but our punter's kind of badass.
True.
You do that, but
The whitest guy I've ever seen in my life is John
dude's a
Ryan.
giant though.
I didn't realize
Oh,
it until
John
he
Ryan.
took off his helmet. And then it was just like flaming red hair. And I was like, holy cow, man. That is intense.
All in all, I mean, I believe that punter definitely drops down their draft grade just because what the fuck.
It's a 7th round pick, yes, but I mean, as we as fantasy
That's a
players know, you don't take a
mid-7th round
punter
pick,
until
so
the
I
last
mean-
round, but there's other holes they
Was the
could have
last
filled.
round.
Yeah.
Right. I'll say
Um,
definitely they did fill their biggest role though, getting corner in the 1st round and then trying to stick defense. So all in all, I'd say not a bad draft, but their free agency was definitely better to
Yeah.
boost the draft.
The pickup
Yeah,
of
they picked some
Fowler
good
to
replacements.
replace Beasley, I kind of disagree with you, TJ. Vic Beasley's still got some productivity to him, but
I agree. I don't think
his
he's a bad
rookie
player.
no, his productivity has gone down though. So I mean, it's not a huge loss for them. And then to fill him with Dante Fowler, that's a great.
That's what I'm saying. Fowler's better.
upside.
Well, and
there.
that's what I was saying. Vic Beasley is a big loss by himself, but then they replaced him, and that's when I said Dante Fowler. I think he's better.
Mhm.
He's more consistent.
Oh, yeah. I was like, yeah, all in all, Falcons not too bad there. Let's see how they do. I think probably 9-7 in that division.
They definitely made some key improvements where they needed to. I don't know how Hayden Hurst is going to fill Austin Hooper's spot. He's got the potential, but I really think they're set up to succeed with who knows how many more years they have of Matt Ryan. Like, he hasn't really showed a downslide, but he is getting up there in age, and they're going to need to, win now if they want to get back to the Super Bowl. So, and I think they're in a position to win now. So I
agree.
think fairly well.
I agree, especially with the pickup of A.J. Terrell. Desmond Trufant has kind of lost a step. He's still a good corner, but he's not at that elite level that he once was. And everybody that they drafted is a very moldable player. And I think they'll fit in well with Atlanta. But I really think the thing that's going to boost them is that Todd Gurley signing. That's just really going to set their offense apart.
Yeah.
Devontae Freeman was he tried to do the between the tackles thing, but he was an outside runner. Same with Tevin Coleman. They had 2 of the same player on the team. That's why they got rid of Coleman. And out by himself. So you bring in a guy that can do all 3 downs. He needs to improve a little bit as a blocker and as a pass catcher. But he's great between the tackles and he's physical. And I think that is really going to boost that Atlanta offense. But, the next team that we were looking at there. And so with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they did have, a noticeable loss in Jameis Winston, their franchise quarterback. They lost Peyton Barber to the Redskins and Rashard Perriman, who I'm not a big fan of, but he did end up doing, I think, a little bit better in Tampa Bay. They lost DeMar Dotson and then Carl Nassib, their defensive end, who went to the Raiders. But they had some decent signings as far as what's on paper.
They got some old guys. Okay.
Yeah, they got some old
Maybe
guys.
if I was playing Madden fucking 2013,
They went to the
maybe.
geriatric center and said,
Yeah.
"I want you, you, and you." I mean, come on, the
Right?
kid's on retirement. What do you do?
Shaquille, they grabbed Shaquille Barrett, run on the edge, or sorry, they franchised Shaquille Barrett. They brought in who many people believe is the GOAT. They brought in Blaine Gabbert, they re-signed Blaine Gabbert. Brought in Joel Haig, Kevin Minter, Jason Pierre-Paul returned. Ryan Smith is returning, and Ndamukong Suh is returning. Okay, so fuck this. This is stupid. Like, let's look at their draft.
I feel like we're forgetting something.
Yeah, their draft, right?
Gronk.
No.
Oh yeah, I forgot Gronk. Yep, that's
there's somebody else too.
They brought
Who am I
him
missing?
out of retirement.
Ooh.
So the 24/7 champion.
That's scrawny kid from Michigan.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
I said Tom Brady. I said the GOAT.
I think you're talking about Blaine Gabbert, the GOAT.
Yeah,
I was like, of course, Blaine Gabbert, the GOAT. What do you mean? Draft-wise, since I'm about to get into the Tom Brady thing in a minute, 13th overall pick, first round, Tristan Wirfs, tackle out of Iowa. 13th pick, second round, Antoine Winfield Jr., who Vikings fans will recognize that name, safety out of Minnesota. 12th pick, third round, Keyshawn Vaughn, running back out of Vanderbilt. 16th pick, fifth round, Tyler Johnson, wide receiver out of Minnesota. 15th pick, sixth round, Khalil Davis, defensive tackle out of Nebraska. 27th pick, seventh round, Chappelle Russell, linebacker out of Temple. And then 31st pick, seventh round, Raymond Calais out of Louisiana Lafayette. He is a running back. Okay, so Tom Brady, right? He is about to get fucking exposed on Tampa Bay. I have been saying for years that Tom Brady is not as good as everyone says he is. The guy has 6 rings. I will give him that. But if you're telling me that Tom Brady's the reason they won 6 rings, you're full of shit. It was Bill Belichick.
Sorry. He is the best at throwing those 5-yard wide open passes.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Or
the dink and dunk offense. You know what Bruce Arians doesn't run? A dink and dunk offense. He runs a vertical down the field offense. Tom Brady's about to get fucking exposed. And I'm about to love it happening because everybody has told me that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because of Tom Brady. Look at his stats before he actually improved and he ended up getting weapons on his team. They were not good. His Super Bowl MVP, his first 2 years, not very great stats there. Didn't play particularly well either. Especially, I remember his rookie season, the game in Buffalo. Could not figure out how to play in a windy area like Buffalo. And, I mean, granted, that was his rookie season. People are going to struggle. But everyone says, look what they do with Tom Brady. Look what they do with Tom Brady. Look what they did without Tom Brady. They brought in Matt Castle and still went, what was it, 10-6 or 11-5?
9-7.
No, they double-digit wins that year.
Wins, yeah.
Yeah, they only missed the playoffs because at that time the AFC was stacked. And then Matt Castle went on, and he was not good anywhere else. And that tells me that this is a Bill Belichick reason that they've won 6 Super Bowls, and it's not a Tom Brady one. And he is going to be exposed to having to rely on an injury-ridden tight end that hasn't played in a year and wide receivers that are vertical wide receivers. He doesn't have too many short options down there in Tampa. Yeah, okay. But I just don't see it happening. What do you think, Aaron?
This team's not making the playoffs.
I know.
It's not. They're not. I don't know. To me, this resembles, for any basketball fans, when the fucking Lakers tried signing Gary Payton and Karl Malone in hopes of getting a ring, and I watched how that blew up in their face. The same thing's going to happen. I don't think the Buccaneers are going to find success. The only thing that's going to go down is their amount of interceptions because Jameis Winston isn't throwing the ball.
I agree.
But they're not in this division with the Saints and an improved Falcons team. There's no way this team makes the playoffs. Some decent draft picks, though. I did like the Antoine Winfield Jr. I was hoping he would fall back to the Bears at 50. The Buccaneers' pass defense was horrid last year, ranked 29th in scoring and 30th in just overall pass defense. He's going to give them a boost, hopefully, as long as he gets some playing time. But yeah, Tyler, what do you got?
Honestly, they did the best thing they could do possible is getting Tristan Wirfs in the first round just because Tom Brady's old. He's going to take one shot down there not having a good offensive line like they do in New England, and they are going to break his damn hip. He is going to be on the bench with a walker. This man is
Walker.
old. Okay, I'm sorry.
He's 8 years older than I am. Go fuck yourself.
Okay, well, he's old for a professional football player.
Thank
Whatever.
you. Thank you for clarifying that. Because rude.
No, he could still play if he was better than what he is.
I agree. The guy's never thrown a pretty football.
This is the
His
same
arm
division
strength
that
hasn't been
also
great.
has another old quarterback of Drew Brees.
Who's better?
By a long shot.
As far as, and you know what, Tom Brady might have that killer instinct in the playoffs that not a lot of quarterbacks do, because his best games come when he's under pressure. But if I'm picking a quarterback to get me to a Super Bowl, I don't know if I go with Brady anymore.
No, I'm going to go with Brady when I'm trying to get a quarterback to get me to my field goal kicker spot to kick it.
Right? Or if I want somebody to deflate my football to get it down the field a little bit further.
Right.
And who's in his backfield now? I know you said they lost Peyton
Ronald
Barber.
Jones, I believe.
Ronald, yeah.
They also
He was
got
decent.
Keshawn Vaughn out of Vanderbilt in the 3rd round.
Yep.
And Raymond Calais.
Calais.
There we go. I'm bad with names. Out of Louisiana Lafayette. So, I mean, they got a couple running backs in the draft here that they're going to try to see what kind of competition they have. They don't have a lot down there for running backs, but we'll see what they can do. You're right. They're not going to go to the playoffs. It's going to be funny.
No. I think at best they're an 8-8 team.
8-8 because they do have Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. Tom Brady does
win.
In the playoffs.
He does. He wins games, but I don't know if I trust him.
They also have Mike Evans, who's got a lot of talent. They got solid.
Chris Godwin really stepped up last year. Chris
Godwin is a great one. I think those are gonna be huge helps for him. It's gonna get him to just missing the wild card, and it's gonna be fucking hilarious.
Yeah,
I agree.
I
just don't see a third team in the NFC South making the wild card. Not when you have Green Bay and Minnesota as perennial contenders in the NFC North. You've got the Seahawks, who are always a threat in the West. You've got the Eagles and Cowboys in the East. You know, you got a much improved Cardinals team in the West.
If you look at the NFC,
Rams are a year away from being in the Super Bowl.
That you wouldn't say those are gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah,
the NFC is so strong.
It's so
the
strong.
The Buccaneers are not gonna make it.
You need minimum 11 wins, I feel, to make the playoffs this year. 10 could get you in.
I don't think the Cardinals did. The AFC
Cardinals are 7-9.
All 4 teams are
best.
Playoff teams, though. You know what I'm saying is though they all 4 teams could be playoff teams.
They could.
The Cardinals are on a bigger upswing than the Buccaneers are.
I would agree.
If Nick Foles steps up, you have 3 there.
And that was if Mitchell Trubisky developed. Let's say Nick Foles plays like we expected Nick Foles to play in Jacksonville. I still think they're about a year away from contending in the playoffs.
If they didn't have such a regression like they did last year, I would say this would be a year. But yeah, there's still another year. No.
I don't see Tampa Bay making the playoffs. I don't see Carolina making the playoffs, and I think they're going to be better with Teddy Bridgewater than they were with Cam Newton. And speaking of the Panthers, they lost Cam Newton, quarterback, Kyle Allen, quarterback, who were pretty much their quarterbacks for the past couple of years. Chris Hogan, wide receiver. Greg Olson's stalwart tight end went to the Seahawks. Trey Turner went to the Chargers. Greg Van Roten, guard, went to the Jets. Darrell Williams, a flex offensive lineman, went to the Bills. Dontari Poe, former defensive tackle, first-round pick, went to the Cowboys. Luke Kuechly retired, who's a huge loss for them. One of the best middle linebackers, in my opinion, to ever play the game. Retired very young. Mario Addison went to the Bills, defensive end. Defensive end Vernon Butler went to the Bills. Defensive end Bruce Irvin went to the Seahawks. Defensive tackle Kyle Love went to free agency. Cornerback James Bradbury went to the Giants. Cornerback Ross Cockrell left. Safety Colin Jones left, and safety Eric Reed left. They had a lot of losses.
Oh, yeah.
Their gains, they signed Robbie Anderson, wide receiver out of the Jets. Trey Boston's came back on a re-signing. Teddy Bridgewater signed a 3-year contract to be their starting quarterback. They signed Farrell Cooper on a 1-year deal. Seth DeValve, tight end, signed. John Miller, guard. Russell Okung, he signed from the Chargers after a trade for Try Turner. And Seth Roberts, wide receiver. PJ Walker, quarterback. He was a former XFL quarterback that they just signed. Stephen Weatherly, defensive end, and Tahir Whitehead, Tyler, linebacker. And then as far as their draft pickups, 7th pick overall, first round, Derek Brown, defensive tackle out of Auburn. 6th pick of the second round, edge rusher, Yetter Gross Matos, out of Penn State. 32nd pick, second round, Jeremy Chin, safety, Southern Illinois. 7th pick, 4th round, Troy Pride, cornerback out of Notre Dame. 6th pick, 5th round, Kenny Robinson, safety out of West Virginia. 5th pick, 6th round, Bravion Roy, defensive tackle out of Butler. 7th pick, 7th round, Stanley Thomas, cornerback out of Florida International. Tyler, what do you think about this?
They got them a big boy in the first round.
Yeah, I love him. I see another
6'5", 325.
monster.
He's a big boy, and I
Monster.
like. That's always a good pick. They're in a rebuild. They're not
Great.
trying to be playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
No.
They're not trying to do anything really. What they're trying to do is get the best players possible. And honestly, I think they had a pretty decent draft trying to fill the spots they need with what was available. That first pick is the biggest one, though. I mean, and then getting Gross Matos out of Penn State in the second round, that's another nice pickup there just to start boost.
He's a very good pure pass rusher.
They stuck mainly. I mean, did they just go all defense? Am I reading that?
They did. They went. Yep. They set an NFL record for the only team to draft pure defense through an entire draft.
Well, they know how terrible they were last year, and they know what they lost in the only good parts.
Yeah.
So they did what they should have done, and honestly, I applaud them.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Offseason, same thing. I love the Robbie Anderson pickup. I like it a lot.
I don't.
Because
he's gonna be a star on a terrible team,
just like he was with the Jets.
But I like him to be a number 2 on a good team. I would have liked him to be a number 2 on the Packers.
I'll give you number 2.
Nice deep threat.
Doesn't run very good routes though.
No, he's a solid deep threat or a slot threat.
No. Yeah.
Now, when you say this team isn't really going to compete for playoffs, I definitely agree. I do think Teddy Bridgewater will get them to a playoff game. I think he's good enough to do it. I think they made the right move at quarterback by signing Teddy Bridgewater and getting rid of Cam Newton. Cam Newton, to me, is a more athletic Donovan McNabb. Overthrows people like it's his job. I love the first 2 picks they made. Derek Brown is going to immediately step in and kind of be what they expected Star Lotulelei to be. Not saying he was bad. Star Lotulelei was very, very good. But the other guy they got there ended up being even better. And I think Derek Brown is going to be what they wanted Lotulelei to be. I just like saying Star Lotulelei. That's a great name to have.
Yeah, it is.
Lotulelei.
That defensive line is going to be
a big boy in the middle.
Yeah, that defensive line is going to be nasty next year with Derek Brown and Yetur Gross-Matos. Excellent inside pass rusher coming off the edge there. One thing about him, you guys both watched the draft, right? Yeah. He had they kept telling these sad fucking stories about all the draft picks. And his was
depressed, yo.
Yeah, his was by far the worst though. Like, if anybody, I won't depress anybody, but go look it up.
It's true. It's
true. His story is really sad, but I'm happy he made the NFL.
Yeah, they
I
want to
think he's
look
gonna
it
have
up,
a great career.
But...
Yeah. Troy Pride Jr., cornerback out of my team, Notre Dame. Hopefully that gives them some help on the outside there. They're in a rebuilding year, and it might be a couple of years.
I think it's gonna be a couple of years. Maybe not. Teddy Bridgewater is more talented than I gave him credit for in the beginning.
I agree. I was the same way. Me and you had the same conversation where we didn't think Teddy Bridgewater was going to amount to anything, and then I was shocked at what he did in New Orleans. And the reason I didn't think he was going to amount to anything is I didn't have faith anybody in Minnesota could develop a quarterback, and Teddy Bridgewater needed a lot of work. And when he went to New Orleans, did that well that quick. It was
He's also got to have the best prosthetic ever after losing his leg in Minnesota. I mean, geez.
He talked to Joe Theismann's guy.
His leg and his life, and then it's like, here you go. And he came back in 7-0 or whatever, 7-1. Like, he's just great.
I think he was 7-0.
Yeah.
I don't think he lost a game as a starter.
He might have lost one. I thought he lost one.
Well, we'll find out.
I feel like he lost one.
Fortunately, with us doing this, I have the power of Google at my hands. So Teddy Bridgewater threw last year for 1,384 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and you are right. He went 7-1 with the only loss being to the Rams in Los Angeles.
That's what I thought. And I think that was a good game too, if I remember correctly. But yeah, honestly, just to kind of look into this, I mean, just to wrap this up, we got the NFC South here. it could be probably one of the best divisions in the NFC.
Agree.
They
Yeah.
have a very strong, all teams are strong, honestly.
I
Teddy
don't think
Bridgewater brings the
Carolina's that
Panthers.
strong,
No.
but I think he
Teddy
makes them
Bridgewater
relevant.
Can change things. Exactly.
I think he makes them relevant.
It makes him bring the Panthers to.
They're going to
maybe
play
making the
spoiler.
Buccaneers be the last in that division.
They'll play spoiler to some teams this year. Like
Tom Brady could see the bottom of the barrel this year. It's gonna be.
It
oh
could.
my god, that'd be great.
I mean, they
I
could
love it.
realistically be one of the worst teams in the
Yeah,
in
but
the NFC
hey.
South. So,
All right. Well, hey, again, like I said, this is their week. This is the NFC South. Again, I'm Tyler. It's Aaron, TJ. It's Fat Guy Sports Talk. Catch us next week.
adios.
Adios.
Thank you.